Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Welcome to another Battle of the Network show. Today we're going to talk about Mork and Mindy, starring Robin Williams, the late Robin Williams, and Pam Dawber. The comedy asking the question, what happens when an alien comes to live in the attic of a woman's house?
Yeah, something many people were wondering all throughout from the dawn of television. People were wondering that, and finally a show came along that attempted to solve that very question.
Right. They'd seen aliens, I don't where did Bill Bixby's favorite Martian live? He just live in the house?
Yeah, well, he lived, with his, they lived together.
Wasn't he his uncle or something?
He crashed, he passed himself off as his uncle, yes.
So many Martians have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, uncle, it's an easy enough thing to pass yourself off as. Yeah, so you had My Favorite Martian, you had...
The Great Gazoo.
The Great Gazoo, yes. That's a little bit of a different situation, but yeah.
Is he an alien, technically?
He's like an extra-dimensional, but still an alien, I believe.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
he's alien enough for me, anyway.
Right.
You had the invaders, which were basically aliens invading and attempting to take over the Earth.
Right.
So there was that, but none of them were in Boulder, Colorado, in attics of sort of everyday all-American women.
No. What are the dates on Mork and Mindy?
What are the dates on Mork and Mindy?
Yeah.
I believe 1979. It was when it started, and the episode we're going to talk about today was in, actually, I guess 1978, so fall of 1978.
Yeah.
Our episode is in 1979, and it lasted 4 seasons, I believe.
Okay.
So late 70s, early 80s, kind of right in our wheelhouse area.
Yeah. From on ABC and from the Gary Marshall Hit Factory.
Yes, and I guess there's some conflicting stories about how the series got started, but I think regardless of what you believe about the particulars, I mean, the idea is that Gary Marshall saw the opportunity to make a lot of money, to get another show on ABC. ABC saw an opportunity to make a lot of money with a show from Gary Marshall.
Yep.
And as a result, Mork and Mindy was spun off of Happy Days, and for a while it did make people a lot of money.
Yeah. And
it had a meteoric rise, which we can get into, and then flamed out pretty quickly, though.
Right.
And despite lasting 4 seasons, you could argue that maybe it's one of the great what might have beens in this era of television, because it started out as such a huge hit, and faded out pretty shockingly fast, I guess.
The fact that it's spun off from Happy Days is still like a weird thing.
It is, considering Happy Days was set 20 years before Mork and Mindy.
Right, yeah.
And did not have aliens on it.
Right, except for this one time.
Yeah.
And from what I read, was it originally written that it was all a dream or something?
Yeah. I don't remember this, as it happened. I was, very young, but it's more like, after the fact, I remember reading about it. The idea was that originally it was a dream, which would sort of ground it in reality, but then they sort of like retconned it and decided to, because they brought Mork back later. Right. So
he erased their memories.
Yeah, right. Yeah, whatever. It'll work.
Yeah. I mean, he comes from a planet that doesn't have feelings, as we'll find out.
Yeah, it's not unrealistic. Well, Mork had lots of apparently all kinds of extra normal abilities.
Yeah.
That came and went, but he was actually a pretty good fit for Happy Days, maybe because the Fonz also seem to have a lot of extra normal abilities. Right. Now that I think about it, I don't know who is more powerful, Mork or the Fonz.
That's something that we never got to find out.
No, they should have had like some kind of showdown.
Yeah, like a rumble.
Yeah. The Fonz is snapping his fingers.
Yeah, like one of those classic sort of science fiction cliches, the gladiator situation. Yeah. Where they both get kidnapped by a third,
right.
A second alien race.
Who pits them against each other for...
Right. Things like, can you turn on machinery with just snapping your fingers, or repair machinery by hitting it?
Yeah.
Mork had some sort of telekinetic powers, right?
He did, yeah.
Like he could make the stairs to the attic just go up on their own.
Yeah.
Some things like that.
But so could the Fonz. He would just
That's
snap his
true.
fingers and it would
Yeah.
just lower itself.
Right.
Hey.
Hey, they both lived in attics too,
Yeah.
right?
Wow. Hey, wait a minute. Might be onto something here.
Yeah.
But yeah, two of the and Mork and the Fonz were two of the biggest TV characters at the time. I think even
Yeah.
when the show wasn't doing well in the ratings, Mork and Robin Williams were still pretty big, and all ages and audiences of all kinds would know who Mork was pretty easily.
Right.
And obviously, great appeal to kids as well. You know, Fonz for being cool and Mork for being an alien
Yeah.
with a kind of a neat spacesuit.
Yeah, and wacky suspenders.
Yes, wacky suspenders. Yes, and his civilian guys, the rainbow outfits and the suspenders, and yeah.
Yep, with the little, I don't know, whatever those things, like badges or something on them.
Yeah, that adorned his suspenders. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was Mork and Mindy. So yeah, it started out and they gave it. I think they treated it like a spinoff and put it on. Kind of nestled it in the ABC lineup on Thursdays, which is when our first season episode we're going to talk about was on, and
Yeah.
it did very well. It fit right in with the other shows, and then they moved it, and it didn't do so well. But for a while, it seemed like ABC was on top of the world and had a new mega smash hit. And today, I don't know, Mork and Mindy, it's bounced around. I believe it's on one of the digital sub-channel services right now, but and it was on Nickelodeon for years, and it's been on like the Hub when that was a thing. So it hasn't been huge in syndication that I know of, but it's always kind of bounced around a little bit as sort of a family-friendly comedy rerun. But I don't think it's ever had anywhere near the impact that it used to. And the whole series is on DVD now, but I'm pretty sure that took years in between DVD releases, so it took a very long time to complete it on DVD. So I don't know if it holds up.
Now, do you think when it is airing on TV, there's one episode I read about that I wonder if they ever air it,
Okay.
where so there's, I forget his name now, but like a recurring character who's like some sort of like worships.
Exodor?
Yes, Exodor.
Yes, the very bizarre Exodor.
Right, and he worships Venusians, Venus, which we've established is there are no people on Venus.
No.
Our $6 Million Man episode, we covered Venus in great detail.
He doesn't worship Venus Flytrap from WKRP. You're
No.
talking about
Or
people
Venus,
from the
or the Venus probe.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We worship the Venus probe.
But I guess there's an episode where he loses faith in them and starts worshipping O.J. Simpson.
Say what now?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
It was,
No,
that was
but
just
OJ wasn't on the
Wikipedia.
episode, though.
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But he was still worshiping him.
Well, at the time, you could do worse.
Yeah, no, at the time it made sense.
Millions of Americans worshipped OJ. The entire city of Buffalo worshipped him for 5
yeah.
or 6 years. So,
Yeah.
well, I don't remember that one, but
I don't either.
I don't know if that's still in the syndication package. I know that we watched our episode on a streaming service that has a certain oddball assortment of episodes
Right, yeah.
scattered throughout the series run with no apparent rhyme or reason. I don't believe that was one of them.
No.
But then again, who's to say? I mean, it's like a handful of episodes in some seasons. I believe it's much like Happy Days,
Yeah.
where we had troubles. We were surprised at how few and scattershot the episodes were, and Mork and Mindy's kind of the same deal.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why.
Right.
I mean, they lived.
Paramount is stingy.
Well, they worked in a music shop.
Yeah.
Like in the first season, they spent a lot of scenes, and Mindy
Right.
worked in her father's music store.
Yeah,
There'd be
which is,
demonstrations and instruments sold and records sold, but
yeah, they do that. I like that because it's not actually something you see a lot, at least now.
true.
Someone selling both of those things.
Yeah.
There are music stores that sell instruments and record stores that sell records or
That sell-
media
That sell
downloads.
limited edition vinyl
Right, limited edition vinyl.
for $25 a pop and T-shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess in a quaint town like Boulder, Colorado,
Yeah.
you got to combine your businesses.
Right. Well, I remember growing up, in kind of in this era.
Yeah.
Even then, like in the '80s, well into the '80s, I remember like big shops that had like the retail space,
Right.
that would sell instruments and music, and it was all
Okay.
kind of one deal. And then
Yeah.
by the end of the '80s, I think that probably started fading away, especially with the rise of the compact disc and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is interesting. Now the record selection itself isn't that big in
No.
in this particular music shop, but isn't that how like Brian Epstein
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, he worked on one of those deals, right? Where
NEMS, I
NEMS,
think,
yeah.
like
So
the
they
family.
sold music and records for the kids and everything like that. So yeah, the music store is a
Yeah.
good setting, but they didn't.
They didn't stick with it.
Yeah, they didn't stick with it. So I don't think it's music rights necessarily holding up. I don't know what the
No.
deal is, but we watched this Mork and Mindy episode we're going to talk about on Hulu.
Yeah.
And it's there, and as far as I know, it's uncut. But if you're looking for more episodes, you might have to go to the DVDs would be the best case, or wait for them to show up on TV because they ain't
Right.
on Hulu.
No. Especially if you're looking for like part 2 of a 3-part episode.
Yeah, that's
You might be in trouble.
Yeah, that's particularly galling
Yeah.
when you see a part 3, but not the other part. So the episode that is on tap today is called Mork's Mixed Emotions. This is the 20th episode of season 1, aired Thursday night, 8 p.m., February 22nd, 1979. So take yourself back to 1979. All kinds of stuff going on back then. Mike's contemplating what was going on back in 1979.
I was almost 6.
Wow. Yeah, so
I was
you
in
were
kindergarten.
So were you concerned about gas prices and inflation at the time and the hostage crisis?
I was aware of those things.
Oh, okay, good.
You know, my dad watched the news every night. I was
Okay.
aware.
Good.
But no,
Fair
probably
enough.
not.
Were you concerned about aliens coming to your town and
Uh,
possibly staying in your attic?
Well, this alien was so cool that probably I wanted that to happen.
Oh,
I do remember watching Mork and Mindy some, but I don't think I watched it like its entire run. Maybe because it moved around. Like
Right.
I remember went through various sort of formats, I guess. So the first season there's a music store. There's a second and third seasons there's the thing with Jay Thomas, whatever. And they have the neighbor,
yeah, they had a
Tom
deli
Poston.
and then a restaurant. Yeah,
And then the last season, Mork and Mindy get married and have a baby played by Jonathan Winters
yes,
because Orkan's age backwards.
yes,
And he's hatched out of an egg that Mork lays, I think.
correct.
And I remember someone, like a friend, telling me about that. Like I didn't know about that. I wasn't watching it by then.
You didn't know the facts of life as they played out on Ork?
No.
You probably should have heard
It
that
confused
from a
me.
grown-up.
Yeah,
You know, that's kind of a heavy stuff for a kid to tell another kid
it is.
at
And
the playground.
some of the information might have not been accurate.
Yeah, there might have been some embellishments or
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, if Mrs. Garrett had told me, sure.
Right, it would have sunk in right away.
Yeah.
Well, we all learn about orc biology in different ways. I don't remember how I first learned it. It might have just been by watching it on TV.
Yeah.
I did watch Mork and Mindy, I remember, but I don't remember being really obsessed with it or particularly into it. I just remember it being on, and it was a thing. Like, I guess I was kind of like an ABC guy because like a lot of the shows that were on at the time, I was never into Laverne and Shirley, but I watched
Yeah.
Happy Days.
Uh-huh.
You know, and it was in family-friendly time slots. So, you know, I do remember watching Mork, but I also remember at some point like not watching Mork as much. I don't think it was that. You know, I was sitting there as a kid thinking, "Oh, why did ABC screw on with the show and change the
Right.
time slot and mess with the format?" It was more that I just wasn't into it that much anymore. And I don't remember being particularly thrilled by Jonathan Winters as their
Yeah.
baby Mirth.
Yeah, I
and
don't
I
know.
think many Americans agreed with me actually.
Right. And I assume probably by the end of season 1, Robin Williams was ready.
Yeah, that's
to go.
that's the thing that people say. Now, I guess, I mean, is there anything else we should say about the basic premise of the show? I mean, so we mentioned that Mork comes down to Boulder, Colorado, lives with Mindy.
Right. He's supposed to be observing humanity.
Yeah. Earth is like a mystery to Ork.
Right.
So, and Mork reports back at the end of every episode
Yeah.
to his, his superior, his
Orson?
rotundness. Yes, Orson.
Right, yes.
He always calls him like different things or something like
Right,
that.
yeah.
Oh, yes, your rotundness or something. You know, he always has some different labels for him, whatever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the show, for people that haven't seen it or don't remember it, he basically they film it. It's like in a black background, and he says what the whole premise of the show was. Now, as
Yeah.
somebody who's a big fan of morals in cartoons, and I love like those blatant filmation cartoons and GI Joes with the morals
Yeah.
at the end. I love this because it's basically telling you what you just learned,
Right.
And like, here's the lesson, it's like,
Yeah.
and he basically spells it out for you what he's learned,
Yeah.
you know.
And he's in his Orkan, his spacesuit, which is like a red or deep orange sort of velour
Yes.
jumpsuit with silver boots and gloves and a silver like triangle on it.
like an emblem, yeah.
Yeah.
And we just hear the disembodied voice of Orson,
Right.
like responding to him, "Oh yes, Mork," and
Yeah.
they kind of interact like that.
And it's all happening in his head.
Yeah.
Like in this episode, we actually, the shot they use of him sort of like, putting his hands to his temples and going to the astral plane or wherever he is,
Yeah.
is clearly a reused bit of footage.
Yeah.
Because Robin Williams' hair is much shorter in that one shot than anywhere else in the entire episode.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
Yeah, so that's essentially the...
And production-wise, I read, I did not know this, but they shot those after the fact. So they would shoot the episode, and then several days later, actually, they would go back and shoot this
Okay.
moral message as a separate thing.
Yeah, once they understood what they...
Yeah, I guess they had to go edit the episode together and break down the complex minutia of all the points they were trying to make in the episode.
This is about the importance of feelings.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and they, Robin Williams was a stand-up comedian and had acting and improv backgrounds and stuff, and basically showed up and impressed the hell out of Gary Marshall and the Paramount people, and so the show was built around Robin Williams.
Right.
And everybody else is essentially a straight man for Robin Williams, including Pam Dawber, who is basically a model who her Mindy was basically was the straight woman for Mork. So the idea was let Mork do his thing
Right.
and riff and make it a showcase for Robin Williams and his versatility. And playing an alien, let him do different voices, do silly things, and kind of roamed around now.
Yeah.
There's some episodes that he seems a little bit more unhinged than others. I think especially like his stand-up at the time and afterwards and things he's done, there's sort of like, you would sort of assume that he was basically just ad-libbing everything, but that was not the case.
I've heard different things, so that at least there were portions of the script that just said Robin ad-libs or something.
Yeah, there was a really good article, and there was also an unauthorized movie a couple of years back that told the untold story of Mork and Mindy, and it played up on a lot of like the tensions and things.
Yeah.
And kind of get into that. But a lot of the writers and creative talent on the show insist that they wrote things out, and I think their side of the story is that Robin Williams would do it, especially in rehearsals. He would not stick to the script, and he would barely even do anything to the point where they would be concerned that he didn't even know the words. But his memory was such that he would know it, and then when they aired it, he would basically stick to exactly what they wrote.
Okay.
And then maybe they would incorporate some of the things that he brought to rehearsals, but it was sort of a compromise where they let him go and do what he wanted and sort of get it out of his system.
Yeah.
And then they would go and shoot. When they actually shot, he would stick to the script. So pretty much from what I've read, everybody that worked for the show and the writers, and now granted they might have a vested interest, but they will claim that there wasn't a lot of ad-libbing. You wouldn't have been able to do that he was saying what they wrote for him.
Yeah.
Now, the one other thing they did production-wise now this is something I thought was interesting, and I don't really see this unless you're thinking about it, but supposedly they shot this with 4 cameras instead of the traditional 3 cameras.
Ooh.
Because the idea was because Robin Williams was moving around so much and like embellishing, they wanted to make sure that they captured all of his physical movements. And if you're looking for it, you can sort of see some shots here that look like maybe unconventional camera angles that you might think, well, maybe they had got that after the fact. But I guess they were. I'm not exactly sure how they did this setup. If they had one like roving camera just following him at all times, which would make sense. But that's what I discovered is yes, they shot it with 4 cameras instead of 3.
I'm not gonna tell these writers what happened in their lives is wrong.
Well, I'm just saying what
this particular episode, based on my experience of seeing Robin Williams in other, like on talk shows and things, seemed like he was kind of doing his thing for a good portion of it.
True, but what else do we know about Robin Williams from seeing him on talk shows and stand-up is he does tend to reuse certain elements.
Yeah.
And
so they could have just said,
the thing was that
do your thing.
He was like a sponge.
Yeah.
That he would, and there's been allegations of him reusing and recycling other material, maybe unconsciously or not. So it's possible that all these things are true. That I'm sure it's some combination of all this, but this definitely gave him a showcase to just kind of like, you're right. Like in this episode, which is called Mork's Mixed Emotions, if we haven't mentioned that.
Right.
You could totally see them putting something like Mork does a monologue about so-and-so and just let him do it, and he could probably handle it.
They could have also, it could be like the lines are all lines that they wrote, but the delivery, they just left that in his hands.
Right.
Like you're saying a bunch of things and you're being angry or afraid, and, he decided that fear was Peter Lorre.
Yeah, right.
whatever. Yeah, that could be. Credit where credit's due.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody deserves some credit. Like,
I want to give Pam Dawber some credit.
okay, go right ahead.
She just seemed very present and listening to what he was doing,
Mm-hmm.
and not, granted, it's taped, it's on a live show, but, not breaking. Like, so she seemed to be like, the character, just taking it all in.
Yeah.
But she didn't seem like distracted or just waiting for him to shut up so she could deliver her line or whatever. Like, she just seemed like a person listening to this very stream of conscious sort of behavior.
Well, the two of them, make a cute on-screen couple.
They do, yeah.
And I guess we sort of established the timeline of the show, but there was some romantic tension started from the beginning.
Yeah,
and they moved on and off from that throughout the series, but then by the time they had a kid, they were established as a couple. And even this episode gets to that, but she was totally overshadowed by him as far as mainstream media, the show itself, and the Mindy character did not get a lot of attention, but she did a pretty good job. And again, I will echo you in giving her credit, because if you don't have a huge amount of acting experience in your resume, you go into this sitcom, you get this gig, and you're being asked to play off Robin Williams. That could be quite a deal for somebody that's not used to that style of acting and dealing with that kind of personality, and she does a really good job with it.
Yeah, maybe her modeling background, I'm not saying that as a joke, but gave her the poise or something to just roll with that.
Yeah.
In a way that maybe even a more experienced actor wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah, and she's effective in this episode. She also, a lot of times she has to be exasperated and just kind of, Mork, and sort of explaining things to him for the audience.
Right. And she's also like,
a tough part. Because
she knows his deal, like when they're out in public, she's like taking a lot of it in stride.
Yeah.
While other people are like, they have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, because most of Boulder, Colorado does not know that Mork is an alien. They just think he's an eccentric.
Do her dad and grandmother know yet?
Yes, I believe they know at this point in the show. I don't know. I can't remember if they knew right away, but they were aware of it.
Okay.
Because, again, maybe I should have checked this before what I'm saying, what I'm about to say, but I think it would be a little bit more difficult to allow your daughter, or to not raise more concerns about your daughter living with somebody if they didn't know sort of the unique situations.
Right.
I mean,
he definitely did raise concerns.
He did, but
just because it was like a guy living with in 1978.
Let me pose this hypothetical to you.
Yeah.
Say you've got a daughter,
Uh-huh.
and this guy is going to start living with her. Would you rather this guy be living in her attic? Would you rather he be an alien from Ork, a planet which you didn't know existed until just now,
right?
Or would you rather he be just some cocaine-fueled hippie from Berkeley, or San Francisco from the Bay Area that just is drifting through town and just starts living in her attic? Which would you rather have?
I think option A.
The alien, yes, I agree. Yeah, that makes it a lot more palatable, doesn't it?
Right.
So, yeah, and this is Conrad Janis played. He was the proprietor of the music store, Mindy's father, and her Mindy's grandmother also worked at the music store, and she was like the sassy grandma.
Right. In the opening credits, she's playing an electric guitar.
Yeah. So the first season, again, it's a show that changed its theme song each year.
Yeah.
And there was a blatantly disco version, I think, in the second season.
God.
And they kept changing it. The disco version is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you lose that great little bit where Granny does a riff or two on the electric guitar.
Right.
Like the whole song breaks down so that she can kind of show her stuff. So that shows how hip and sassy she is. So those are two characters. So you sort of had like that other generation, two other generations dealing with Mork and Mindy, and then they phased them out after the first season, which is sort of unfortunate, and people think led to the decline of the show. But kids in America were like, where are those old people? Yeah. Who's this melon-faced guy? This melon-faced guy. Melon-faced guy? Which one is that? Jay Thomas. Jay Thomas, old melon face. I just watched a Cheers the other day where the newspaper described him as either melon-faced or melon-headed. Yes. Jay Thomas was Eddie LeBeck, one of Carla's husbands on Cheers, hockey goalie. He was also on the sitcom Love and War. And radio show host, comedian. 400, 500 episodes of various David Letterman shows. Yes, a traditional Christmas time guest of David Letterman. And again, going back to the format changes in the second season when they jettisoned Mindy's father and grandmother, they brought on Remo, I think was his name, and his sister.
Right.
Who I was watching one of those second season episodes and I was confused about. I thought they were a romantic relationship, and then I'm like, oh, that's right, they're brother and sister.
Right.
They're bickering like contentious lovers, but they're actually just contentious siblings, as far as I know.
Right.
Well, I know they're siblings.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
I mean, clearly there's some weird relationship stuff on that show. So.
Yeah. And they're from New York.
Yeah.
Which makes them brassy. Well,
okay.
I'm just saying.
It makes them brassy.
Nothing against New York.
So they have a deli in the first season,
Yeah.
and a restaurant, or the second season, and a restaurant in the third season.
Yeah, in the fourth season, I think they were out of
gone.
there.
Yeah.
Back to New York, I guess.
Right.
So Boulder, Colorado is a pretty unique setting for a show, actually. I
It
like
is.
that.
Yeah. And
they do have some exterior
that are
shots.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was looking up verifying the name of the music store, and found various people's pictures from the show, but also people like having their picture taken like in front of the storefront.
Yeah.
It's like a bookstore now or something.
Okay.
But you could see it's everything except for the sign is the same
Right.
exterior. So yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah. And Mindy drove a Jeep.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Her and Daisy Duke driving Jeeps on TV.
Yeah. So the show definitely had some unique elements to it. Should we dive into this episode? We've kind of talked about the whole show.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's sort of like Inside Out.
Yeah.
Years before, decades before.
Right.
And the premise is
Pixar's Inside Out, not the other Inside Out.
The
Kevin
Phil
Kline.
Collins Genesis song Inside
Right.
Out?
Yeah.
Although Phil Collins might have been inspired by Robin Williams.
Yeah.
They might have shared some common proclivities, if you know what I mean, in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you do know.
Got a little bit of a cold. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Allergy season.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, Mork, it's Mork dealing with his emotions, and he wants to suppress his emotions.
Which apparently is the Orkan way.
Yes, and he fears, understandably
Which is an
so,
emotion.
what'll happen if he lets his emotions come to the surface.
Yeah.
And he does first of all, he shuts everything down.
Right.
And Mindy tells him it's ridiculous, and I guess Mindy kisses him.
Yeah. And it's her birthday's coming up, too. And
she's got a event coming up, like a little dinner party kind of plan.
Yeah.
Where she wants Mork to be a part of it.
Right.
So a kiss from Mindy unleashes his emotions.
Yeah.
And then it's Katie bar the door once again, and so we see Robin Williams acting out all these different emotions, like you mentioned, fear, anger.
Yeah, and like you said, like Inside Out, like they're all different personalities.
Yes, each one has its own distinct persona.
And this is very reminiscent of some of his sort of stand-up kind of things. They'll tell each other to shut up, and they're having a conversation with each other all through his voice and body.
Right, and a lot of inner conflict.
Yeah,
like that thing of like him mentally and like physically just straining against himself and being part of that conflict. You're right. It definitely echoes of a lot of his stand-up material. So it has mixed results in the real world and with other interactions.
Apparently he goes on some sort of. We don't know exactly how far he goes on some sort of journey all the way to an ocean.
Yeah.
From Boulder.
Yeah, quite a journey.
Just sounds like a rampage.
Yeah, Mindy tells him that there's no waterfront because he talked about
right
about being by the water, and he says, "Who says I stayed in Boulder?" And he
gives her some seashells.
Some seashells, yeah. Oh, should we mention the guest customer that that goes into the music shop in one scene?
Yeah, we should.
Bill Kirchenbauer, the star of Just the 10 of Us. Yeah. Maybe he's best known for. And before that, he had a big comedy background. Had been on Fernwood Tonight.
That's right.
As a regular before that, but he's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe, sadly, best known as like the patriarch on Just the 10 of Us.
Right. Spun off from Growing Pains.
Yes,
He's coach on Growing Pains.
I'm going to go ahead and rip Just the 10 of Us and say that I never really liked it, just because I'm pretty sure that's safely outside our time frame.
Is it? Because I watched it.
Uh-oh. Well,
a little bit, because I like Growing Pains enough that I watched that.
If anybody wants us to talk about Just the 10 of Us, I will gladly do it, but it was not one of my favorites growing up.
No, we don't have to.
But I like Bill Kirchenbauer.
Yeah.
He's got, every man kind of appeal, and although he's playing this character, he's a customer that comes into the shop with a swagger and is like hitting on Mindy and everything.
He's like a disco stew kind of
Yes,
guy.
yeah, that's good. And he's got a blatant hairpiece that starts flapping around.
Yeah.
And and then basically Mork just goes brutally honest on him
Right. Yeah.
and starts
Riffing on it.
starts riffing on his hair and
Yeah.
what does he say? Something like, "Oh, I've seen hair with a wave, but I've never seen hair waving at me,"
Yeah.
and kind of flaps it up and down and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and appalls Bill Kirkenbauer.
And he leaves in tears.
Yeah,
I don't know if he actually cried, but
yeah.
I didn't recognize him, but I felt like, oh, this must be somebody.
Yeah.
And then I looked him up, like, oh, it's the coach.
Bill Kirkenbauer could have been
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
You remember when Bill Kirkenbauer was in that roadshow version of On the Waterfront? Mm-hmm. With I think he was actually playing with Rod Steiger was in that version. And,
Yeah.
and when he gives that speech in the back of the car, he says, "I could have been somebody."
But the real twist, though, was that they swapped roles every night.
Yeah, that kept it fresh for everybody.
Right.
That's right.
Rod Steiger finally got to be that Marlon Brando role.
Exactly. And Bill Kirkenbauer's piece in that one was much better than the one he wears in this one. This was just for comic effect. When he was doing On the Waterfront, he didn't mess around. Nothing
Right.
but the best. We'll have to dig that up. Did they ever film that anywhere? Well,
Somebody must have.
we'll dive through the archives. for
Maybe
that
there's
one
just
later.
like a bootleg audio cassette of it.
Yeah, that'd be worth it.
Yeah.
Be worth it. It's quite an experience for those who are fortunate enough to witness it live. It's a short stint in this episode, though, but a memorable
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they go to Mindy's birthday dinner.
Yeah. Actually, can we go back to the?
Oh, please, yes.
There's a different so that scene happened pre this emotional release sort of thing. But then when he comes back from the trip,
Oh, yeah.
I think possibly my favorite moment in the whole episode. So there's a Steve Martin standee in the back of the record store on the wall.
Yes, BO Battle of the Network shows alum,
Steve
season
Martin.
1 alum Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like in the earlier scene, the disco scene, I happened to notice it. It was one of those things where you notice something and then it turns out to be important.
Yeah.
So they probably wanted me to notice it.
That's good. Yeah.
But so right when he bursts in the record store door and he's all like frazzled, he grabs a standee and he's like, "Well, excuse me!"
Yeah.
and throws it on the floor.
Right.
Like I feel like that wasn't written, but it was there, so I feel like it
Yeah.
must have been written.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You don't just go kicking around destroying valuable props like a Steve Martin standee
Yeah.
without having that cleared ahead of time, I would think.
I probably had to pay for permission to
Yeah,
have that standee.
probably. Steve Martin was a good sport and didn't object to it, fortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's right. That was a memorable entrance, him bursting into the
Yeah.
and taking out his beef on Steve Martin.
So yeah, they go to the restaurant, this fancy French restaurant, for Mindy's birthday.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
snooty maitre d's, snooty
Snooty
waiters, etc. And Mork is basically letting his emotions run wild.
Yeah, and then I'm not a fan of getting angry at customer service people, and or at least displaying that. But that maitre d', that guy's a jerk.
He was, yeah.
Like they had a reservation and he still wanted a bribe.
Yeah.
And I don't think Mork was already acting weird, so it might have had something to do with that. But I think that would have played out that way.
I agree.
Regardless.
He's literally got his hand out for.
Yeah.
He's on the take right away.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not impressed with this whole place.
No.
And then Mindy sits down and asks for Thousand Island dressing, which I thought was a reasonable request.
I don't like Thousand Island dressing.
I don't either, but it
And
seems like a reasonable option.
It might be a bit of a rude move in a French restaurant. But
Perhaps, but she does say it's her favorite. It is her birthday.
Yeah.
And the waiter's like, "We don't carry Thousand Island dressing."
right, then Mork does something.
Sadness. He starts, oh no, this is a disaster. This is a tragedy. Oh, no Thousand Island dressing. And really makes a scene.
Yeah. And we'll go to the 7-Eleven and get
Yes.
you some.
Yeah.
Which seems really demeaning.
It is, but he seems to say it more out of fear. At that
Yeah.
point, he doesn't seem to be trying to insult them. He just seems to really want to diffuse the situation.
Right.
There's definitely a dark side to Mork sometimes.
Yeah.
And this, he doesn't really seem violent. It's just more like, whoa, just kind of out of control.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
Sorry, that came out more
Joey Lawrence.
Joey Lawrence than Robin Williams.
Again, outside the time frame.
Yeah, thank God.
Unless we do Give Me a Break.
Give me a break.
If we do Give Me a Break, we got to do first season Give Me a Break. We're
Yeah.
not doing the Joey Lawrence era.
No.
I got distracted there.
Yeah.
Distracted by the soothing tones of Nell Carter belting out a show tune in my head. Well, at least it finally got the disco version of Mork and Mindy out of my head. So, okay, Mike, you vamp for a minute while I gather myself.
Well, Oh, I don't know. There. That's my best Robin Williams. I'm afraid to vamp. Did I do okay with
Yes.
That's a vague approximation of what he's doing on the.
Yeah.
The anger personality definitely seems in charge.
Yeah.
A lot of the
Very
time.
assertive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in this one, like the emotions. Well, Mindy even asked at one point, "What about the good emotions like love?" And she mentions something else because he's talking all about the negative emotions. I guess when she brings up love, I think he makes a comment about some woman on the street he propositioned or said something to.
Yeah.
That's kind of a weird
Right.
little aside. And he's got some kind of like faraway look in his eyes when because he doesn't remember what happened. But yeah, Mork had quite an adventure there. But yeah, so they get through the restaurant experience though, and
after he steals some people's lobsters.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Poor old
Now,
couple.
what emotion was that, or was he in the mood for lobster?
He did a little, I think, a few emotions. Like
Yeah.
there was definitely like the aggressive personality
Okay, I was
first,
trying
because
to
he went and
remember-
grabbed them, and he even stole the guy's lobster bib. Which would a fancy French restaurant have plastic lobster bibs?
Yeah, and like wooden mallets.
Yeah. And then he's like holding them both and like doing voices and all sorts of stuff that you would expect. And
Right.
I'm not sure what emotion.
Yeah,
that
what
is.
emotion led him to take somebody's greed, jealousy?
Yeah, I think Mindy kind of like she looked at him just like, oh look, that looks good. I should have ordered that. So I think some of it's that. Like,
just let me get what I want from my girl.
yeah.
That's not, it's an admirable quality.
Right.
His methods might have been a little off the reservation, but
Right.
the intention was good.
Yeah. But he probably knew like you want to change your order at this restaurant, it's another $20.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah.
No.
Might as well just go take it from somebody else's table.
Right.
Yeah, so,
And lobster in Boulder, Colorado is probably expensive.
right, since there is no convenient waterfront.
That's been established, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless they're, I don't know where I was going with it. Anyway,
Unless, unless they're genetically
I was going to say
mutated
rock
lobsters.
lobsters. I don't know what that means, though.
Rock lobsters.
Because it's Boulder. That's what I meant.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah. I think Bedrock has more lobsters than Boulder. But so yeah, Mork is dealing with his emotions this whole episode. Lots of scenes, and back at the at Mindy's pad, he's waging this battle's playing out basically in front of Mindy.
Yeah. And she has to explain to him, well, it's okay to have these emotions.
That's what makes humans human.
But they're not all separate personalities.
Yeah, they don't have to be.
They're all part of you.
They can even interact together sometimes and
Yeah.
combine, blend.
Right. And so he has a whole. He kind of runs through each one. Then we get a
Yeah.
good rundown. But
Gives us a little review of each one.
definitely anger and fear and there was joy and all the ones in Inside Out, and then I don't know if
Disgust. He did
was there
mention disgust at
Yeah.
least one time.
Okay.
Yeah, he was describing something that happened, and like, oh, I want to do this, and disgust told me, and so disgust definitely made an appearance, but it was brief.
Right. So it may be embarrassment. I don't know. He goes through a bunch of them.
Yeah,
And then he has a conversation where they all agree to work together.
yeah, they joined forces.
Right. And then he and Mindy have a bunch of like he kisses Mindy a bunch of I don't know, but it's not super romantic kissing,
No,
but it is on the lips. So I just didn't know. I couldn't remember where their relationship was.
I think it was still a little ambiguous at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, he was still in the attic.
Right.
They were just sort of like getting to know each other.
Yeah. He does say he cares about her a lot.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
He actually says that. Yes.
Yeah.
And so Mork learns basically what you just said, that emotion's what Mindy told him, and then he's nice enough to repeat it again at the end of the episode
Yeah.
to Orson.
Right. Which was because it was confusing before that.
Yeah,
Needed a little clarification.
he certainly gives that. Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting that if you remember the show, a lot of the part you remember is wacky Robin Williams, but his default personality is like quiet Robin Williams. Like Mork is a gentle person.
Yeah, he's more subdued. He's more naive. Like
Right.
this assertive Mork is sort of a departure.
Yeah,
He's an observer. That's what he's here for.
right.
You're right. Now, this is a first season episode, and the first season, this is kind of a wacky story, but
Yeah.
I think most people will tell you the first season was more grounded in reality, and then the second, third season, they started getting increasingly ridiculous situations and more
Right.
contrived sitcom type stories.
Yeah,
And, in the fourth season when they brought, Jonathan Winters on, that was obviously rather cartoonish, but...
Right. Well, and if you think about what was going on in the other Gary Marshall comedy hit factory shows at that time.
Yes, as I often do think about...
They were already well beyond grounded in reality.
It's exactly true. Yes.
So,
well,
presumably his staff, that was just the role they were on at that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's definitely some over-the-top aspects of this episode, but it still comes down to an alien, the original premise of the show, an alien learning about Earth.
Right.
And learning about different situations and getting into sort of comic mishaps because of that.
Yeah.
And that's what this story is about. Whereas in the second and third seasons and beyond, it became more...
solving crimes.
Goofy things happening to Mork that weren't necessarily related to him learning about human behavior and human reality. So
yeah,
you could definitely see a change as the series goes on. Yeah, I think most people would agree that the first season was the peak of Mork and Mindy, and commercially, it's inarguable because it was a top 5 hit on ABC, and then by the end of the show, it was run. I think it was like number 60 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty big fall, and the second season. They moved it to Sundays. It was against Archie Bunker's Place, and a lot of people say Archie Bunker's Place was a pretty big success for CBS at the time, and people say, well, that was part of the problem. Just moving it in general was part of the problem. I don't think ABC was trying to kill the show or anything. They thought they could get a beachhead on another night, but they also changed the format of the show to appeal towards, say it with me, everybody, younger viewers. So that's why they got rid of the father, the grandmother, and had more like simplistic storylines. And it may be overdoing it to talk about the emotional depth of the first season, but they moved it away from that direction. And by the time they tried to change course the next season, and I didn't know this, this is just something I read doing research for this, but I think the first episode of the third season, I believe, was actually called "Putting the Ork Back in Mork," and they brought Mindy's dad back, and the whole thing was basically telling the audience, okay. This is going to be more like the first season.
Yeah.
Forget what you've been seeing. But by then, I guess it was too late.
And then they're like, we'll just have him give birth to Jonathan Winters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, that definitely sounds like desperation.
Right.
But this wasn't unique to ABC. This is kind of the time when everybody was starting to chase those fabled younger viewers and get demographics and everything like that. And I think ABC probably killed the show by insisting on some of these changes. And actually, I believe Mork was not going to come back for the fourth season, but I think it was the network's idea to drastically retool the show and bring on the changes they did. I don't know if... I'd like to know what executive said, okay, bring on Jonathan Winters as Mork and Mindy's baby, and then you get a fourth season and gave them like a full commitment. I don't think it was that specific.
I feel like Robin Williams had something to do with that.
Yeah.
Because it was one of his idols.
Right, it was one of his idols. I also think partly it might have gone in both directions too. Like at that time, and we sort of alluded to it, but Robin Williams, he was well liked, but he was a handful because of his drug use.
Yeah,
and that was, I mean, he was partying with Belushi the night before Belushi died, right?
Yeah.
So this was kind of one way to keep him happy, a character that he was increasingly frustrated playing.
Yeah. And his movie career was already
he'd done Popeye. And
Garp, maybe.
Had many opportunities coming out. Yeah, he's a great actor and could do a little bit more. And one thing that comes up a lot of times when people are talking about the show is the belief that he sort of resented the character because they wanted him. The premise of the show is he was this childlike, naive character, as we mentioned, and he didn't want to do that more than like the first season.
Right.
So he became frustrated and wanted to do, and he would do things like, the way he played the character, he wanted to play it more savvy and knowing, and you can see that even within some episodes. Sometimes you wonder, like, is Mork really stupid or...
Yeah.
Because sometimes he'll say things that kind of are more like Robin Williams' sensibility, not necessarily the character. So maybe Jonathan Williams or Jonathan Winters helped him out on that, although I think from all accounts, Jonathan Winters was going through some tough times and that show as well. So Mork and Mindy had a great run for like one season, and then it was pretty much on the decline after that.
So a couple of last things I want to just touch on. One is I do remember at least one kid wearing Mork suspenders to school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I really, that was like an actual, like a merchandise thing. I don't think I knew, put together what they were at first, but I do remember a kid wearing those. And I also, I guess I was into it enough, like I knew Robin Williams' name, and like when Popeye came out, like the combination of Robin Williams and Popeye made that an exciting thing.
Yeah,
Well,
like,
I didn't
it's
see it
like,
till
hey,
it
gotta
was
see
on
this movie.
cable.
Yeah.
But I also I remember like being then like not disappointed in him, but disappointed that like he was making all these movies that I wasn't allowed to see. You know, because a lot of his early movies were rated R movies.
Yeah.
Garp and
Like even the
Moscow on the Hudson and
yeah, he did the football one with Kurt Russell.
yeah,
The
that might
Best
have
of
been
Times.
Yeah,
Is that R-rated?
I don't know, but that might have
It
been
had
a little
adult
later.
themes.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't geared towards the Mork and Mindy
Right.
younger set.
And of course, that's now knowing not only just what his personal life was then, but that his stand-up, I'm sure, was not not for kids at all either. It's kind of I'm not saying I was a dumb kid, but I just didn't have the information.
Right.
Like to me, he was going outside of what he was supposed to be doing.
Sure.
When in fact, Mork was probably outside of what
Yeah.
in being this clean thing.
When you said about the kid, there was also a recurring character, Eugene. You remember him? He was an African American youth.
He was in this episode briefly.
He was like Mork's sidekick.
Yeah.
And I seem to remember him kind of being a big deal, like in the
I don't remember anything about it.
again, like the Dynamite magazines and the bananas, which I keep coming back to.
Right.
But they tried to. It seemed like they tried to make him like a child star.
Yeah.
Probably a poor man's Gary Coleman.
Right.
If you will.
Yeah.
Seems like he was a semi-recurring character as well. Exodore we mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Morgan Fairchild.
Oh yeah, Morgan Fairchild was like a snooty
Yeah, Mindy's sort of
frenemy.
Yeah. That's good.
I regretted saying that as soon as I'm sorry.
I was going to say Nemesis, but
Nemesis is much better.
but
Can
they
we
do
remove
have
that
some
in
sort
post?
of yeah.
Can our crack editing team remove that in post, please? I apologize.
No, it looks like there's some sort of issue with that.
Oh boy, Shazbar.
I'll the last thing I wanted to, because you said this the other day, you're a big Conrad Janis fan, right?
Can I edit that from our real life conversation? Can our crack edit team remove that? I like Conrad Janis's character for some reason. I'm generally drawn to like these weird TV dads and.
Well, this is the thing that struck me. You're drawn to people, weird TV dads played by men named Conrad.
Wow, he just totally blew my mind. That's right, Conrad
and both balding too.
Conrad Janis.
Yeah. I don't know if there are any other Conrad. They're like, I mean, there's, William Conrad.
Well, I'm drawn to him too.
Well,
probably for different reasons, but Robert Conrad.
Robert Conrad. Yeah.
Not so much Robert Conrad, but now I might have to reevaluate. Maybe I am a big fan of Robert Conrad after all. Well, you might not have known this, but my father's middle name is actually Conrad.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, it's because it's not true. I just made that up. I'm just trying to search for... You've
a source of,
You've made this true assertion. I'm trying to link it all together. My head's spinning a little bit here.
Are there other actors named I don't know. Conrad's not exactly a common name.
Conrad Veidt from Casablanca, Major Strasser.
That's your favorite movie.
Yes. Well, that was Cornell Wilde, not Conrad.
Yeah. It's Hans Conried.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start typing in the name Conrad into IMDb and see what.
Oh, Conrad is a good, solid name that you don't hear much anymore.
It is, and
I think we should probably try to bring that back.
And because you can also go by Connie.
Yeah, Connie.
Connie Mack, who's
Rad.
baseball. Rad.
You go by Rad. You go by Mr. C. I was a big Mr. C fan on Happy Days, but it stood for Cunningham, not Conrad.
Right.
Folks, if you want to name your child Conrad, feel free to do it and send us a baby picture into the show, and we can have a baby naming contest.
When I just type in Conrad only to IMDb, the sort of autofill things that showed up were Robert Conrad, someone named Chris Conrad. He's an actor. Another actor named David Conrad.
Okay. We need the first name in there. Come on, IMDb. Help us out.
Conrad Ricamora.
Conrad Ricamora.
Yeah. He's on, I might be mispronouncing Ricamora, but he's on How to Get Away with Murder.
Oh, okay. Well,
Lauren Conrad. The hilarious Lauren Conrad.
Lauren Conrad, yes. I'm proud of myself for not remembering that one.
William Conrad, whose picture is pretty great.
Immortal. William Conrad.
Conrad Vernon.
Conrad Vernon.
It's a Shrek 2. And Conrad Veidt.
Yes. Yes.
So our two Conrads didn't even show up in that initial.
Well, I think there's a limited subset of TV dads named Conrad, but what a pair they are.
Oh, what? There's a TV series called Conrad. It's starting this season. This year.
Starting this year.
This is 2017.
Conrad. Is it about a dad who... Let me guess. It's about a father, a kindly, amiable, yet balding father who tries to raise an alien and several kids that he adopts that belong to his deceased housekeeper. And they all live under one roof and try not to drive each other crazy. Did I nail it? Am I close?
TV series crime drama.
Crime drama. Conrad.
Jennifer A. Goodman.
She's Conrad?
John Prosky. She's Katie Conrad.
Oh, it's the last name.
Yeah, Harold Dennis, Shannon Brown. This must be Canadian or something. Wait a minute. There's very little information on it.
This fall on CBC, Conrad.
Yeah.
Jennifer Goodman is Conrad.
There's like...
I'm a little disappointed that it's her last name.
Yeah. United States original air date.
I've often said there's nothing more beautiful than a woman named Conrad.
I guess it's an internet thing or something.
An internet show. Boy, I'm becoming more...
Yeah.
It says
country of origin, United States. But original air date... It says January 1st internet, but then it also says April 1st. I don't know. I don't know what the...
Well, by the time...
this is.
When we go live with this episode...
Conrad
in
will
the show
have
notes,
been canceled.
We'll try to have an update on the status of Conrad, the TV show.
Right.
And
I kind of wish it were about two balding dads.
Yeah. Well, you could have a show called My Two Conrads.
Yeah.
Where there's two dads trying to play off each other. And
Maybe it'd be a little, I was going to say a little odd couple, but they both seem, in the shows that I've seen them in, neither of them seems like slobs.
They get along pretty well, I think.
So it'd be two Felixes? Or two Oscars?
Well, two Felixes, I guess.
Felixes, yeah.
Yeah. So, Mr. Drummond and Mr. McConnell. I can't remember his first name now.
I don't remember his first name.
Conrad.
Yeah.
So I'll thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. If you might, if you need to see your therapist about this or anything. I mean, it seems like a positive thing.
Okay, so...
Is it just...
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down for my next therapy session.
Right.
1, Nell Carter obsession. Look at that. 2, look into Conrad.
Right. Yeah.
And that'll kill 45 minutes right there.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of killing 45 minutes, I think we're about...
I think we killed about
half
of it on Conrad.
Yeah.
So that's Mork and Mindy.
Yeah.
So Mork and Mindy. Well, okay. So do you think the show holds up now? You've watched several other episodes. So to wrap up, let me tell you what I think while you're thinking about that.
Yeah.
I didn't rudely interrupt him before he started talking to folks. He looked like he was thinking. So.
I just said
Yeah. That was the universal cue for start yagging for a few minutes.
Yeah.
While some people don't like Robin Williams. I like Robin Williams. I liked him as an actor. Mm-hmm. Some of his work doesn't hold up as well as maybe you'd think it does. But he's definitely a charismatic... you can see why he'd be such a big TV performer, but you can also see why the character would get a little bit old if you didn't sort of nurture that in the show. So I can see why the show flamed out a little bit. I liked it as a kid. I'm not that interested to see more episodes right now. I would maybe target some specific episodes, and I would recommend people that are interested. Maybe look for some guest stars. Sort through those dozen or so episodes on Hulu, see if anything looks interesting to you. But it's not one of my favorite shows. I don't think it holds up as well as some of the other ones of the era.
That sounds about right. Generally, I like Robin Williams. I think, you go through I went through periods where maybe just because he was doing things that didn't seemed a little sentimental or whatever. Like it seemed like when the comedy movies he did got increasingly not as good.
Yeah.
But then he made a lot of interesting dramatic movies.
Right, like 1 Hour Photo and Insomnia and things like that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Things like that. And you're like, oh yeah. And I can clearly remember seeing him on Letterman and absolutely getting sucked into his whatever he was doing.
Yes, he was the proverbial force of nature wherever he went. And he kind of it was probably a little bit frustrating sometimes because he really always was that person whenever he made these appearances, and he probably thought it was expected of him.
Right.
And maybe that was some of the burden that, maybe it was a burden sometimes to have
Yeah.
to be that. But
Yeah, because he clearly had the, like a quiet
yeah.
part of him.
But the show itself, and also remember not having seen it for years, then it came back. Like I said, it would bounce back, and I think Sci-Fi was showing it, or the Hub, or other things, Nickelodeon. And sometimes you'd think, well, I haven't seen this in a long. Why isn't anybody showing this? But then when I actually sit down and watch, it's like, it's okay for what it is, but it's just not something that I'm interested in watching now.
Yeah, that seems about right.
But if you put it on, and made me watch it,
Yeah.
I could live with it.
I laughed watching this. I mean,
Yeah.
I am going to go seek out a Mork action figure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no.
Oh okay.
But I did, well, like, one of my friends had one. I remember that.
The same guy with the Mork suspenders?
No, but the same guy who told me about the Orkan birds and the bees.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, and I think the figure came in an egg.
Was the Mork figure anatomically
a
correct?
spaceship egg. Well, he was just in his jumpsuit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell one way or the other.
Yeah. And he was, Star Wars size, 3.5.
Right. The whole
The
figure.
figure, yes.
So,
the whole
gotcha.
figure. I don't know about.
Okay, all right.
I don't even know. I don't know about Orkan anatomy.
Well, I don't know. It sounds to me like you know a hell of a lot more than I did at that age.
Apparently they can lay an egg.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly where that's coming from.
Well,
An egg big enough to contain Jonathan Winters.
yeah. I don't know how to respond to that.
Robin Williams probably had a riff on that.
He probably did.
Oh, yeah. Anyway.
So, Mork and Mindy, Mork's mixed emotions, mild thumb somewhere in the middle, leaning up, but
Right.
Not necessarily a modern day classic.
Yeah. What was the Nanu Nanu? It doesn't matter.
Oh,
People can't
like
see
the
that.
gesture
Yeah.
he
yeah.
made.
Yeah, what was his gesture?
Wait a minute, I'm doing Live Long and Prosper.
Yeah, you're doing Live Long and Prosper, and all I can think of is Peace and Love,
Yeah.
which that's a salute.
Like the I just did the dating game kiss, I think, at the end too. Something like that. He drank with his pinky, so it's something like that, right?
Like out of his pink.
Yeah, he would stick his finger, his
Oh, right,
pinky
yeah.
in a drink, and the liquid would go
Yeah,
out and somehow into his pinky.
Right, and up his arm, and yeah.
Yeah, there's some weird things.
This
going on
Orkan
with it.
anatomy stuff, I don't know. It's,
Yeah, I've had enough of Orkan
yeah.
anatomy. I give up.
I guess after I find the action figure, I might look for Gray's Orkan anatomy.
Please do.
Yeah, the book, not the
Yeah,
maudlin
yeah.
Orkan TV series.
And when you find that book, feel free to keep it to yourself.
Right. All right. Nanu Nanu.
This episode brought to you by McConnell's Music Store. Yes, we have a disco section. This episode also brought to you by Rainbow Suspenders. It's about time for a comeback. This episode also brought to you by Feelings. Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/battleofthenetworkshows.
Mork calling Orson, come in, Orson. Mork calling Orson, come in, Orson.
Mork calling Orson. Come in, Orson. Mork calling Orson.
You opened the door to your emotions, didn't you, Mork?
Yes, sir.
You realize you've broken the highest Orkan law.
Excuse